Hey, YouTube. First thing I want to say here is this is a part two, and I apologize to everybody. It's really bad for the algorithm to to release two videos in a row, but I'm going to do it for anybody. The only reason I do this, folks, is for my listeners. Of course, I've said this for years. Truth for money. I just don't see how that could ever work, or how, if there's money involved, people are going to say what needs to be said to increase that bottom line. And I don't care what anybody would say. Well, no, I'm always going to be honest with it. Folks, truth for money doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. That's all I'm going to say. How's that? It's never going to work. Doesn't work. Won't work. Okay? If I wanted to make a little money online, I would come up with a cool channel idea, something more like "Whiles I was having a beer" with your host, Cutter Johnson, and of course, all my cousins. That's what I would do for money, or play my guitar and play music. Truth for money, never going to work for Lucky. Right where we left off. Huge shout out, Dr. Bass. There's your song. You heard it from me. I just threw you a bone. I watch your shorts, man. Anytime I see you picking, and I'll say the same thing I've always said, man. If Zappa was alive, he'd want you in his band, man. There may not be a lot of people getting what you do, what you laid down, but he would have for sure, and he would have took you on the road just to have you with him and help him write shit. I guarantee it. Zappa would have loved you, my man. But yeah, it was very weird. That last one just cut right off, folks. If you look at where my last few words were before it just cut off, and I was like, oh no, my battery died. And my whole screen just went black. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I fired it back up. Everything come right back up. My battery's fine. Might die now that I'm trying to make a part two. But anyway, just weird, folks. That was always a taboo subject, and maybe it still is. I don't know. But some people say they're doing stuff in real time. Shout out to my brother David Menny. I wanted to say I finally proved your theory wrong, brother. David Menny, my man, out there in California. Miss you, brother. I know you're busy. I'm busy. We just don't get a lot of time to hook up. But I often, would shout out my man David Menny. He used to say, hey, man, they're reading your mind. You think about something long enough, and then you log onto your computer, and there it is, and it shows up. And I proved him wrong, because the other day I was thinking about Ford trucks, man. I'm always thinking about Ford trucks. And so I log on to the YouTube there, and I'm thinking about Ford trucks. I know I was, folks. And what pops up in my recommendation was some beautiful colored girl, a little oversized there, twerking. So that's 100% proof, David Menny, that they are not reading my mind. I'm not sure why they keep recommending those twerking videos to me, but anyway, just wanted to mention that. But still, shout out David Menny, even though you can't be right. But yeah, there's that. So anyway, it's another perfect day in God's country, and I'm trying to do a part two here. And I was just getting to the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to say. I laid down the foundation. I mentioned how it works in medicinal science to make it a little easier for people to understand, because people equate a scientist that like, oh, a scientific theory can't be wrong. It came from scientists. No, he'll actually tell you that it's a theory and it's a guess and it's fabricated. It is indeed fiction. It came from his mind. He made up the theory, and any proof that you want to think you have as a human being is simply reverse engineered math, attempting to create some viability in theory to his fictional theory. That's what theoretical science is. I've already pointed out the use of theories or hypotheses. As soon as you test your hypothesis or your theory and it disagrees with experiment, we know it is wrong. They used this new form that they called theoretical science to get the human race to believe what they were told. Folks, it is so obvious, so in your face, and so simple. At this point, it is so frustrating when I run into somebody like I did this fella in the comment thread that is just so blinded. He literally said, Hundreds of millions of times, scientists have proved the globe. And I said, give me one. And of course, do we even need to all go? What does he say, folks? Come on, let me hear it. Should we all say it out loud? The Greeks knew. Eratosthenes proved the shape of the earth. Folks, right. Do you know how many scientists to this day who are trying to expand upon or discuss the theoretical model of the globe Earth? Do you know why there are still scientists walking around that will claim it as reality because, should we say it together, folks? We've always known it's a globe. Okay? The scientists of today are certainly not making any attempt to prove any hypothesis that the entire basis of their education, indoctrination was believing in this theory. Many human beings are not capable of saying, wait a minute, Lucky's right. Those are non-proven theories. Then once you can admit the truth, this is what people like to call flat earthers. They're not flat earthers or conspiracy theorists or weird people. These are people that comprehend the science and they understand that the globe Earth is a hypothesis that disagrees with experiment right away. The rest is made up of theories to try to make the model viable. That's what's called being biased and pushing a model. Now, once you're deep into this understanding, you can later begin to ask, you will know, once you understand how the globe lie, as we like to call it, was implied upon the populace as if it was reality. Once you understand how they did it, then you won't have to ask us questions that seem ignorant to us. Well, why would they lie? Okay, you will then have opened up your critical thinking abilities enough that you will begin to tell yourself why. You will begin to figure it out. Now, I will say this, I've said this a million times, the most fundamentally basic reason that everybody should understand, and to me, Occam's razor makes this the undeniable first, probably the very first time that they came up with the idea of this crazy theoretical globe Earth, you're nobody but an accident, came from monkeys, horseshit, was probably for the most fundamentally basic of reasons, so that nobody would question what is beyond the 6 known continents. It still works flawlessly to this day. I'm kind of the belief that first of all, this globe Earth propaganda is absolutely brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. I've said it before. I would have loved to been at some of their parties. I guarantee you these guys had beer coming out their nostrils when they were fabricating the globe Earth hypothesis in its earliest forms. I guarantee they were laughing their asses off. You have to understand how much these people hate you and have taken oaths to absolutely hate you and deceive you. You need to understand that. I don't know why people struggle with that one either. I guess they just don't want to see the truth. So these people, okay, these are brilliant people. They would have been a blast to hang out and party with, because there would have been some lickety-split good high-quality humor surrounding the globe Earth hypothesis. I guarantee a lot of the one-liners still used to this day came right out of that first party where they were drinking and saying, we're going to tell them it's a ball? That's never going to work. And somebody had to shout out, they'll never know which way's up. Dude, it had to be a blast. And of course, human beings think the globe Earth was discovered. Of course you do. Of course. And we've always known. The problem that people they think that knowing that the globe is false is a belief, when all of it's provable. Everything I say on this channel is 1,000,000% provable. They can verify this for themselves. The globe is a hypothesis that disagrees with experiment. That's how I know it's wrong. But if you want to continue and you don't believe me, just take a look at it yourself. And definitely familiarize yourself with all the wild theories that you believe in that you don't know you believe in because you just think that some really smart guys figured out that you live on a ball. But no really smart guy ever came along and figured out the ball. So there goes my power is low, my battery's gonna go. The whole meat and potatoes of what I wanted to tell you guys was about the, maybe I can relocate here, was about that comment thread where I told you that guy chimed down the line of, that's not going to work. Okay, where that guy chimed down the line of all the absolute, most ignorant things that they've planted into his mind to say, to pretend that he somehow understands science in some way, shape, or form. Everything from rockets are real to, which, of course, I used to launch rockets myself, blah, blah, blah. So, but then he says, here's a new one. Got to tip your hat for a blinded Glober that comes up with anything new to say. But he says, electricity is a theory, but my phone is charging right now. And of course, I just short right back. Electricity is not a theory, my man. Oh, yes, it is. You just don't understand. They just call things theories still, even after they're proven. So I literally had to take a moment out of my day to write a small paragraph and say, electricity is a tangible thing that we actually use. There's nothing theoretical about it. However, there's a thing called the electrical theory. And the reason the electrical theory is called a theory is because it theorizes where the electricity that the electricity is formed by neutrons and protons and atoms and other fictional made up science. This is why it's called the electrical theory. Do you understand? They're attempting to claim a cause that once again happens to fit their narrative. This is the part people never understand. They'll blindly go along with fictional science that's out of one man's brain. It's his theoretical idea that disagrees with experiments, so it can't be demonstrated. Okay? The cake pan demonstration I ended a channel with, folks. Very few people understand how simple and poignant you can be to correct some of these people. When Mr. Intelligent or whatever he called himself, Mr. Baldy, whoever that guy was, came after me, I hit him with the cake pan demonstration because I knew the guy was intelligent. I could tell by his humor. So I knew I would make my point, but I knew I had to trick him first. So I gave him the old cake pan demonstration, and then he comes on and says, you just demonstrated gravity. And I said, perfect, then you can go ahead and demonstrate it to me. And he said, you just did. And I said, but no, in your theory, there's curvature, so you need to demonstrate your hypothesis or theory. You're going to have to curve the surface. And then I said, but surprise, I wasn't here to debate you about a theory called gravity. I was here to show you the fundamental basics required for a body of water to form on any surface, and that is containment. Now, he made a couple jokes about me and stopped making videos. For all his fans wanted me to debate him, so I set it up, and my rules were demonstrable science only, no science fiction. Church Mouse, he disappeared and no longer makes videos because he was intelligent enough to realize that he is attempting to push a theoretical model that makes no sense and can never be demonstrated. Now, now I knew he would be intelligent to understand this when he made the excuse. This is what they do. Well, we can't demonstrate our belief because the earth is so big, the gravity of the earth screws up our experiment here on earth, so we can't demonstrate it. What they just did was make an excuse for why they believe in non-demonstrable science. And many mental midgets will take that excuse as somehow proof of viability of their model. They really believe that. They believe because we know it's a globe, so we know our theory's correct. No, the globe's never been proven. It never will be proven because it disagrees with experiment. This is how we know it's wrong. Do you get this? Well, gravity's proven, Lucky Man. We know gravity's proven. No, nobody's ever proven gravity. In fact, it's wrong at every turn. They just keep changing the variables and adding new theories that keep getting crazier and crazier, such as warped space-time, Okay? You have to be an absolute lunatic to think that demonstrable science is wrong and fictional science, out of the mind of the author, Einstein, fictional science reverse engineered to continue to push a narrative that contains society on 6 known continents. And in fact, the society bought it such hook, line, and sinker, they now believe that there's land in the sky that someday they can go live on because the earth is screwed up. Every single narrative being pushed upon humanity is theoretical science that was stolen. The agenda is what they're selling, okay? The globe Earth. Now you're stuck on 6 continents. That's all there is. Lucky we have satellites that prove, that take pictures of all this. No, you do not, okay? You have television programming channels sending you videos of things they want you to believe in. There is no scientific evidence to support the fact that a satellite could orbit the Earth in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to find any. This is why you have no proof of any satellites in space. You have CGI photos. You have cartoons of viruses. You have cartoons of the globe Earth. You have no way to demonstrate any of your beliefs. That is step 1 to understanding what a flat earther is a person who understands the globe is a hypothesis that disagrees with experiment. Once you can, even if you still want to believe in the globe, you first have to be able to admit what I just said. If you don't understand that it's only a hypothetical and theoretical model, you will never comprehend the science surrounding it. This is why you get mental midgets that have been in school for 6 fucking years and they say, we discovered dark matter. You're an absolute mental midget. You've got a mind that doesn't even qualify to be in kindergarten if you think that somebody discovered dark matter. They never told you they discovered dark matter. Nobody claimed to discover dark matter. Why? Because it doesn't exist. It's science fiction from the mind of the author. It's fictional. It's reverse engineering to pretend that a chosen model is still viable. In other words, they are stringing you along to hide reality from you. Okay? The globe Earth serves as so many functions for them, but the primarily one, in my opinion, Occam's razor, 6 continents. They call it the New World. More than likely, folks, there's a lot out there, okay? Don't believe in the videos you get on television and think, well, they've done mapped the whole Earth. No, that's all provided to you by the government. They control all flight, even the claimed satellites in space, all controlled by the government, which we know that. Here's the other smart guys. Oh, there's a shadow government. No, the government you believe in is the shadow government. Those are the cartoons for you, dude. The person that won't wrap their head around reality and realize that it's all false, none of it's correct. You've been lied to and manipulated to create the exact outcome we're looking at out our window today. Everything they've done, they've used theoretical science. Global warming, the Cold War. They never, ever, ever discovered an atom or proved in any way that an atom exists, but they used atomic weaponry to control the population for many, many years. They still are. Global warming, it's not even a globe, and they've been controlling the weather at least since I've been alive. My guess is we live in a controlled situation within the containment we're in. That is my best guess, that it's always been controlled, okay? Because it's not complicated to manipulate and control the weather. We live in a density gradient that makes it very easy to understand and comprehend how to manipulate that density gradient. Very simple stuff. This is why they want to always tell you that science is complicated. They got the population looking out that doesn't even know what way is up. Literally Literally, humans don't know which way's up. Just like I told you at the initial party, that would have had beer coming out of everybody's fucking nose. No way they would have avoided that. Period. Yeah, but humans have been just become numb to this, and that's just where they live. They live on a ball. They're an accident, but they grew up from apes, and all. What a beautiful story. Now, that same guy that was trying to tell me about electrical theory, by the way, I hope I explained the difference to you in that truth with lies. That was part of the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to say. You understand, electricity is not a theory. These science fiction theories have no application, like gravity has no application. Now the mental midgets chime in. Oh, all engineers use gravity to figure out there's something. We build with gravity and we fly with gravity. Everything we do is related to gravity. No, folks, your theory that disagrees with experiment has no application. Human beings on this earth get to use reality to engineer things, build things, fly. We have to use reality. So what an engineer uses when he's designing a plane is what we would call the rate at which things fall. That's simple. Nothing to do with your theory about gravity, okay? Gravity is an invented theory, a fabricated theory as part of the heliocentric theoretic model that failed long before the invention of the theory of gravity. The theory of gravity is another really bad theory that every time it's put to any kind of rigorous test fails, okay? That's why it's been changed. Okay, people go, oh, the theory's correct, we know it. Theories in science are reality. But then all of a sudden science changes the theory and they're like, well, that's called scientific advancement. Well, yeah, it's called theories are not reality, dude. That's why they can change them. You can't change reality. No matter how many theories you make, we're never going to live on a ball. It's not going to happen. This is why it'll never be proven. Okay, no human being is ever going to have the globe earth proven to them, folks. I can say this with all my heart and soul, okay? You're not going to have any hypothesis that disagrees with experiment as much as the globe earth does ever be proven to you, okay? It doesn't exist, right? Neither do atoms, protons, neutrons. Just because you like the theories, okay? Viruses, germs don't exist. No one's ever found one. No one's ever said, here it is. No one's ever proven airborne contagions. These are all theories, meaning they don't exist. This is called science fiction. I want to be really poignant and clear because they use it across the sciences, period. Geology, everything's dated to, it's 4 billion years old. Horseshit. Well, why would they lie, Lucky? Well, because they're using the heliocentric model to get their dating from. Do you not understand? No. I mean, I had a PhD astrophysicist ask me that one time. Do you think it's across the sciences? Well, it is. You can't see? That you don't understand that geology, they date things based on the heliocentric model, which Hubble's observation showed was incorrect? What did they do when Hubble's observation showed that the heliocentric model is completely incorrect? Okay? His observation, for those of you who don't know, completely disintegrated the heliocentric model again. What did they do? They said, well, we can either go with the observation or we can just fabricate some more theories. They fabricated a theory called dark energy, folks. That's not science. It's never going to be science. I'm sorry that so many fell for it. And the fact that so many fell for it is why so many still fall for it. That's all they have. They know nothing about their belief, except that lots of people also believe it. That is where we live, folks. The emperor wears no clothes. 1,000,000% in real time. I myself believe most of these nursery rhymes and fables were made up as mockery to us. And when I now hear the song, she swallowed a spider and we don't know why, I guess she'll die. I don't know if any of y'all ever heard that. I know an old woman who swallowed swallowed a fly. She swallowed a fly. Oh, I don't know why she swallowed a fly. Perhaps she'll die. I know an old lady that swallowed a spider. She swallowed the spider to catch the fly. But we don't know why she swallowed the fly. I do believe that's mockery of the globe earth science because that's what people have come to accept as science. It's literally that song playing out and described to you as science. Once you realize that it's across the sciences, I mean, there's just simply no denying it. That's why COVID brought a lot of more people to the truth, because they realized how theoretical science is being used to fool them in the field of medicine. Most of them are not ready to go, what? The Earth's not a ball? But of course, the Earth's not a ball, folks. Of course. We have science to prove this to us, okay? And I want people to stop claiming that theories are real. They will never be real. If they are, they're not going to be called a theory anymore. That's your first fucking clue. But please stop believing in theories that you know nothing about. Please don't be a mental midget and claim that dark energy was discovered. Don't be a mental midget and say that we discovered the universe is expanding like a balloon. Don't be a mental midget. That is not science. You do not conflict scientific observations with wild, speculative theories and then claim them as reality. That is not science. That's how agendas have been pushed upon the human race. I cannot be any more clear and poignant than that, folks. And again, I wanted to remind y'all this was a part 2, and I really apologize for part 1 coming to an end. But anyway, I hope I spewed out something informative and helped somebody along the way. I did want to give a hat tip to that Glober for saying, electricity's a theory and it works wonderfully. I mean, hey, at least he wasn't repeating what he was told to repeat by the COINTEL gatekeepers, right? I'm like, hey, an original thought from a globe earth believer. That is so rare, folks. So I did want to hat tip that guy, but no, he's confused. What he's referring to is electrical theory, which doesn't put into question the existence of electricity. It puts into the question the cause of electricity. But I'm here to tell you that that's not what it is at all. It's another example of an agenda being reversed engineered into theoretical science that can never be proven or disproven. And humans have been taught to think that that makes something real. If it can't be disproven, it's real. It can't be proven, dude. That's far more important than disproving it. This is where the globe earth people are so confused. They can't prove their globe, so they're constantly going, flat earthers need to prove it's flat. No, folks, we don't need a photo. We have science. Science will prove it to you. Stop asking for a human being to prove anything to you. You do not understand. You don't get to make something up like the globe earth science fiction theoretical horseshit science and then say you can't prove it's wrong, so it's real. That's what humanity is living through. You don't get to make something up and say you can't prove it wrong, so it's real. That is how they easily manipulated the human mind into the position of accepting agenda-based propaganda disguised as science. There's no denying this, folks. You only are protecting and defending your own ignorance if you can't look across the scope of things. At this point, I've given you guys so many examples. I talked about the famous retired geologist from the Upper Peninsula, who talked about in his early form of the career, they were finding rocks that didn't make sense. They weren't supposed to be there. What did he mean by that, folks? It means they weren't supposed to be there based on the heliocentric hypothesis. This is how far it affects the sciences. That's what he was saying. There's no rule here on Earth that those rocks couldn't be there. It didn't fit the narrative, which is a false narrative. We know this now. Do you understand how easy it is to manipulate a scientist? He doesn't know he's being manipulated. He thinks he's on the right track. He literally said, we found this massive site with all these rocks that shouldn't be there. What does he mean by that? They don't fit the narrative given to us by mainstream science. It doesn't match with my education. So then he says, it took us years. We were we couldn't figure it out until NASA went to space. And then we started to understand more about meteors. And he said, then we realized what we had. Now, do you understand, folks? There was nothing scientific about this guy's path. He never discovered why those rocks are there. Those rocks are there, folks, because we've been lied to about everything. You don't have to make up wackadoodle theories. I'm trying to show you how effective the heliocentric theory is on everything that is under the umbrella. This scientist's life was led by the heliocentric model that now we know is wrong, and we know why it's wrong. It's social engineering propaganda. Okay? It puts you on a prison, 6 continents. You can barely freely explore the 6 continents we got because they were real crafty and divided them all into countries. So you need permission from your fake governments to go to other countries and even move around these 6 continents. You cannot freely explore anywhere. Oh, yeah, we can get in our boat. Yeah, you got your little playground. You ever wander outside your little playground in your boat? Yeah, you're going to meet the Navy real quick as they turn you around, okay? You can't even go out in Lake Superior. You go across the Canada line, okay? They're going to come and turn you around, or they're going to, pull you over. I mean, you can't even go to Canada in a boat without getting stopped. Oh, you're free to explore. No, you're not. But it all makes sense to you because you believe you live on these 6 continents. They're all contained, of course, because you live on a ball. The only extra land is out there in the sky because you fell for that shit. Those lights in the sky, those electric, clearly the stars are created by some form of electricity. The wandering stars, created by some form of electricity. We know this. It's clear as a bell at this point. Certainly there's no planets in the sky that anyone can walk on. And there's no land out there. If you start to pull your fucking head out of the sand, folks, you're gonna understand all of the basic reasons why the globe Earth propaganda has drove humanity right down the shitter. They got everybody looking out there for more land to save us from a problem that's not occurring, other than they're creating the illusion that it is because they're in control of the weather. And millions of people are still silly enough to not look up and notice that, yeah, it's 100 degrees in Mesa because they're making this cloud cover that doesn't let the heat leave at night, folks. We don't have our old environment where the blue, clear skies at night show us the stars and the heat can leave because they're layering it with heavy chemicals and holding the heat in so they can go on TV and tell you about global warming even though you don't even live on a globe. It's a giant pile of theoretical horseshit and nobody can figure it out because it's so gosh darn intricately woven and absolutely brilliant propaganda. And the whole shit show started in the late 1800s, period. First mass vaccinations, early 1900s, period. First fake pandemic, early 1900s. Television programming, universal images. Making a movie in 1913 called The Black Box about a television. And chapter 3 was called The Pocket Wireless. Really cool. And then The Cabbage Patch was the very first movie ever made about Cabbage Patch Kids, which was probably the answer they were giving all these children that popped up out of nowhere that they had been removed from their parents or created to be in incubators. Who knows? But wherever these children came from, my guess about the Cabbage Patch phenomenon, for any of you interested in that sort of real history, I've dug that deep into history. My speculation is that would be the story they would tell the kids. A stork delivered you. You were raised in a cabbage patch, and a stork delivered you to mama. But it is true that you could buy babies and have them delivered to your door by the U.S. Post Office until somewhere around 1910 or something. They stopped doing that. That's amazing when you think about it. But this is all how the new world was formed, folks. This is all new. And Hubble's observation, of course, taken for exactly what it is, was once again pointed out the real reality, okay? And for those of you who are familiar and comprehend the science surrounding the globe Earth, of course, there is only one correct answer, folks. It's not a debatable topic. The globe Earth doesn't exist. That's why it still can't be proven. It's a horrible hypothesis, but it is a wonderfully brilliant piece of social engineering. Wonderfully brilliant. Once you wake up to the fact that the globe Earth is not where you live, and you start to understand these 6 little continents here that we're all on is simply some kind of a project from these folks that they call the New World. And everything they say, they tell it right to your face. Just like Mark Rubio recently saying, we have inherited this great civilization. And the masses, woo, as if they're part of the we. Like literally, these guys can just get up there and tell you what it is, and the masses cheer. Yeah, woo! Like, hey, we're gonna have to program you guys all using radioactive activity that we're gonna send into your homes. And we really think this is such a great idea that we want you guys to go to the store and pay for these medical units that we're going to put in your living room, and then we're going to program you using that television. We just want, that's what we want you guys to do. Okay, that sounds great. I want one. Cool, man. I mean, still, folks, I got a lot of theories to talk about someday, but I try to keep it real on this. But I've told you guys before, man, my grandma, who I believe would have been second generation, by the way, just so you know, if we are the incubator babies, and perhaps we're a creation. If we are the incubator babies, my grandma would be second generation. That means fresh out of the box, essentially, okay? Because these would be genetic experiments, and whatever they put into that, she would be second generation. I want you guys to understand this. I would be fourth generation out of the if my ancestor's an incubator baby, okay? So when they were programming the second generation, because I would see this on my grandma's coffee table, she literally had a book because she bought the cheaper one instead of the television or the TV guide. There was another one that was cheaper or whatever. And it said, Guide to Television Programming. It sat on her coffee table. Because I want you to understand something here. If you guys followed the, I believe it was Minecraft that pointed out the movie The Island and how he believes it, meshes with reality. Now his claim was that, he thinks that the island and the cloned people are probably the representative of the ruling class elite. But he also pointed out how important that propaganda was because that movie's been made, I think, 4 or 5 times. Like every 10, 20 years, they make a new version of it. Not attempting to be the same movie, but they're telling basically the same story. And in the movie The Island, they make these clones, basically by genetic manipulation. So they're making these people, and the first generation cooperates just fine, and they literally put them in front of these screens and program them, and they put them through all the indoctrination. And the second generation does fine, and the third generation does fine, and the fourth generation, they start waking up. And it's not preventable because it's in their genetics. And I believe this is what people like to talk about, Project Looking Glass. I believe that there's, again, Project Looking Glass. Remember that they've let us know about it. If there was a project that happened that they didn't want us to know about, we wouldn't know about it. I look at everything that's released on the media in any form as they want us to know that. That's just me, okay? There's a reason for all this horse shit, and I think I know what the end reason is. It's how they're going to bring in the one world government. Everything's going to be such a shit fuck fest. The blinded masses are going to beg for one world government, right? And then there won't be no wars and blah, blah, blah. You get it. All the lies will culminate into, yes, we submit. We'll let AI control everything if it means no more death. Okay, but anyway, now I lost my train of thought again. I truly lost my train of thought. Can somebody just yell at me real quick? Let me know what I was just about to say. Ah, dang, I truly lost my train of thought. If a Marlboro can't fix it, then jeez. Anyway, oh, television programming. Oh yeah, fourth generation. The fourth generation started waking up, but it was caused by genetics. So if we as a population are the incubator babies that we presumably know existed, and there's lots of evidence to support that they existed, correct? If we are these incubator babies, that would make me a fourth generation. Now, Project Looking Glass, yeah, no matter what happens, they're going to wake up. That would fall more in line with the incubator babies, in that we know by fourth generation they start to wake up. And then in the island, they told you the guy who made all the clones, he just flat out says what time it is. Time to kill them all. Fourth generation's waking up. It's time to kill them all. What they call a reset. Get it? If you watch the movie The Island, that's the way I saw it. Okay, so if we're the incubator babies, I want y'all to know that I'm fourth generation. So some of y'all are probably fifth generation, and you can see what a shit show you're living through. Okay, so anyway, that movie was so important that it gets made, and that story gets told over and over and over. I suggest you watch the movie The Island and pay close attention that why they explain the fourth generation starts waking up, asking questions, and smelling the deceit, and that is because it's in his genetics, the original genetics that they mixed their whatever they wanted to put in it to make this clone, but you still have your original genetics from your family lineage or whatever mixed with the female nucleus or whatever this, however they claim to have done that. Am I making sense? They knew in the movie Island, they figured out that the fourth generation starts waking up, and then the employees are like, so what do we do? What are we going to do about him? And he goes, time to eliminate them all. And they're like, what? No choice. Eliminate them all. We start over. Boom. So, you put that into a real world situation, and there you go. That's what you got. Anyway, I've rambled enough. Don't forget, this was a part 2. I hope you watched part 1 first. And there was something else. I never did talk about the moon landing, the fake moon trip that's going on that happened on April Fool's Day, ironically. Dr. Bassett also, I seen one of his shorts, and he had said it was about a news clip about a murderer that was a flat earther, right? It's all over the news. So first of all, that murder probably never happened. The whole story's probably fake. The importance of that story, because a guy killing his neighbor is never going to make the national news, folks. The reason it's on the national news is because they're saying he was a flat earther that lived in his mama's basement. You get it? Because that's what they tell the blinded masses. The blinded masses are looking for anything to cling to protect their ego-based false reality that they've been living in for all of their life. They need more reinforcement as the walls are being knocked down to this fictional reality that was constructed for them to pretend to live in, for lack of better terminology. So it's what I'm trying to say here is it's no coincidence that murder story is on the air right now, showing some dirtbag looking guy. They're saying he smokes meth, he thinks the earth is flat, and he lives in his mama's basement. That's the news story, folks. It's not a story about a murder. It's a story mocking people who might be on the edge of thinking they should maybe educate themselves as to what in God's green earth is going on with this, civilization we call humanity. So, with all that said, that is no coincidence that they're releasing that story about the meth head flat earther that lives in his mama's basement that killed somebody for no reason, for like smoking a cigarette or something. I don't know. I didn't watch it, folks. I can't tolerate that wicked shit, man. It's just disgusting. But that's no coincidence that was just shown. And then now you've got the fake Artemis launch. And of course, same thing we always see, a helium balloon, a lightweight rocket, clearly not a real rocket, but you can tell by how slow it travels, it's not a real rocket. It goes up in the air. You can watch it even on CBS's footage, but it's even better, more visible on the private footage, supposedly, that was shot from Titusville down the street. And I know that area well. I used to play Cocoa Beach, when I was on the road. And so I'm familiar with the layout, but you can clearly see the rocket just go up and curve and then start heading down into the Atlantic Ocean where we all know they are. And up here in Michigan, Lucky's gut and intuition has told you before there's likely a few NASA rockets right down there where that Edmund Fitzgerald is supposed to be. Maybe that's there too? Ain't no need for it to be, though. It's a great story. Very hard to get a permit to dive on the Edmund Fitzgerald, the only place in Lake Superior where it's illegal to freely dive. And the only place in Lake Superior where, if you look at the NASA launch site from Michigan, where they actually claimed to launch a rocket into space from the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula, you can just look at the map yourself and estimate where it would land. Knowing that they land in the lake, you can figure out where, if it did this, yep, it's going to be right about where the Edmund Fitzgerald is laying. And my theory on the Edmund Fitzgerald, why it was either made to happen or pretended to be happen, because they might have actually sunk the ship there, who knows? But my theory on it is that those rockets went just slightly farther than they thought and landed in Canadian waters. It does, again, folks, none of this is rocket science. They want you to think it is. It's really all that simple. So you can take Lucky's gut feeling almost to the bank that there's a couple NASA rockets right there in that illegal dive zone. You're crazy, Lucky. Ask yourself, who can I help today? And go out there and do it, y'all. Happy Easter, everyone.